Yeah, actually down to here would be good.
Yeah, this ottoman. Yeah.
Okay, so we're on. Are we on? Yeah, we're on.
You
Okay.
good?
Yeah, I hope.
I think you're good.
Hang on just a second, because there's nobody on. Am I live? Yeah, I'm live. There's no one on. No one's on. Wait, stream will
They're
switch.
coming on now. See?
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm back here. It's I think I'm alive here on Sunday night, Monday morning. Um, so just I'm back on. Okay. So here's some news that I was predicting for the last few weeks. TikTok has finally banned me 100% forever because I talk about things like bee pollen uh, and propolis and what else was I talking about? Oh, parasite cleansing, and so they just didn't like that. They'd rather me talk about I don't know what trans something and uh, things like that. I guess so. Back on now. So anyway, here I am, and no TikTok. So anybody, if you know anybody, I mean, if it, I don't know, I hope TikTok people are clever enough to figure out to get over here onto Instagram or YouTube or Rumble or whatever. Um, anyway, incredible, incredible. So anyway, anyway I got a new camera. So someday, how could I get banned from TikTok? What did I say? Did I say anything really controversial? Nah. Anybody remember anything controversial last week? I don't. Um, anyway, I'm back on Facebook. Back on now. Okay, good. All right. Good morning, everyone. So wake up. Um, anyway, it's kind of weird for me to go through that stuff. I don't know. All right. So and I got no warnings from TikTok except that anyway. So here we are. I know a lot of you out there don't like TikTok, and I never liked it. I don't use any of the social media personally, so to me, it didn't matter. Um, but they seem to be the most uh, concerned about what I'm saying. Man, God, it's pretty amazing. So anyway, let's not dwell on that anymore. I want to keep this going. I want to make this. Bring this over here to you guys like that. Okay. Yeah, isn't that weird? TikTok. Oh, my God. So, are we okay here? On Instagram's okay. So, imagine Instagram and Facebook are kind of cool. Uh, what can I say? Um, but there was a lot of people there. There was like 115,000 people who probably don't know that it didn't happen because they're what's the word scrolling. Okay, so anyway, sweaty cop again. Let's get into it because it's October 27th for you guys or me. It's 28th for me, 27th for you. Isn't that weird? What's that remind us of? That reminds us of the fact that all of this stuff we have about dates and clocks is made up, right? Because what time is it for you guys over there? Really? If you're in New York and Florida and you're in Chicago and you're in Buenos Aires, it's now time, right? Now. Clocks do different things. They play games, calendars keep going, but it's always now. And as far as I know, it's always been now. So the whole clock thing, all that time is made up. That's why I have a hard time with it. I have a hard time with fantasy. Um, so anyway, so if you're looking to stream or join me at all, it's on, as you know, on X or Twitter. It used to be Twitter. I think we're all gotten used to the word X or the designation X now. Anyway, so that's at Dr. Thomas Lodi, MD, uh, for mythology doctor, and then all the rest: Facebook and Instagram, and YouTube, LinkedIn, Rumble. It's all uh, at Dr. Thomas Lodi. Okay, so that's it. Now, I wanted to talk about the just for a moment the groups. I don't know how many of you have really joined up because I haven't. I don't. I don't know that kind of stuff. So, but anyway, so if you haven't, it's a good idea because I'm actually doing a lot on those. I'm like twice a week. I'm doing PowerPoint presentations about something relevant to that group. So the three groups are health and healing, which is just about health and healing. It's just about eating, fasting, cleansing, movement, uh, relationships, spirituality, everything for what? For general health. What is general health? What is health? Health is optimal functioning of the organism. How does an organism function optimally? When all of its biological needs are being met, then it can function optimally. But for us humans, we're just a little more complicated. We've got to have a situation where our biological needs are being satisfied, and our psychological needs are being satisfied, and our spiritual needs are being satisfied. And when all of that um, happens, then we function optimally, and that is what we call health. Okay. Now, so in that group, we're going to talk about all that. The other group is on parasites, which is one of the reasons TikTok got rid of me, because I had the audacity to offer some therapies for it. Can you imagine? Um, um, and then I really went over way over the deep end. I started talking about uh, uh, bee pollen, propolis. I know it was I'm really walking the line there, but I did it and they got rid of me. So, um, but the parasite group. So what we're doing was we're talking about all things related to parasites, and then the CFC group, which is what everyone knows what CFCs are, right? I hope you do. Yeah. Okay. So CFCs are chronically fermenting cells, and what are those? That's what the Rockefellers call, you got it, Sagittarius or Leo. Some of them call it Cancer, some of them call it Gemini, but we call it chronically fermenting cells because we know that's what it is. That's what they are, and we know that they're chronically fermenting for a reason, right? And so now that we know the reason, we can have a strategy to undo it. That's why we use CFCs. It's informational. It allows us to figure out where we are and where we want to get to, right? Okay, cool. Now, so like last week we talked about on the health and healing group, we said what is the best detox? What is the best detox, and how often should I do it? Blah 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 blah. And then on the CFC group, we talked about CFC stem cells, which is pretty amazing because you all know, or probably know, that it's the stem cells that can metastasize, right? Mature cells can't. So, which is very interesting since 0.01% of a tumor, 0.01% is our stem cells. Up to, some of them, it might go up to 1%. At max, there might be 2% at most, but it's usually around 0.1 would be average, 0.1%, which means that the bulk of the tumor is it won't metastasize. And the relevance, I think, for a lot of what we do is that, there's a lot of talk now about liquid biopsies, right? In other words, they take your blood, they look at the circulating tumor cells, and then they make an evaluation of them. They see what they're sensitive to, and they come out with therapeutic options, right? Here's the problem. If only 0.1% of them are capable of metastasis, then all the rest, we have a 99.9% chance of getting getting cells when we look at the circulating tumor cells that are irrelevant, that won't metastasize. And so to do any kind of evaluation and then therapeutic suggestions based on that is like, maybe not, right? So those are all important things to do. So anyway, we talked about stem cells last week. So, and this week, on the parasite group, we're going to be talking about where can I get the medications for parasites? And on the CFC group, we're going to talk about what about the repurposed medications? You all know about that: metformin, um, atrovastin, doxycycline, mebendazole. Those are like the four main ones. Jane McClellan in How to Starve Cancer came up with that. Those four. She did a lot of really important research. And then the Care Oncology group in England um, does basically the same thing. And what they'll do is they'll work with you wherever you are, and they're going to send you these medications as um, you know, ancillary. Whereas they're still saying that the main treatment is standard chemo, radiation, surgery. Um, but Jane McClellan knows that that's not cool. Yeah. So um, anyway, you guys, hey, thank you for being here. I'm just here. It's a very good thing. I'm under the belief that CFCs and parasites and fungus are very much related. You know, this is uh, this is concept here is. Oh, I wish we had. We should do a webinar on that. And basically, what we're talking about now is polymorphism versus monomorphism. Morph means shape, right? The more okay, we're back on. So morphology is the shape of something, right? And you know, there's uh, in the vernacular of English, we'll use such terms as instead of using it as a noun, morphology, we say it morphed. It morphed into this, morphed into that. Okay, so it turns out that what people that look at uh, the poly, uh, the poly, um, the polymorphic, whatever concept is that there's only one organism, and depending on what group you're working with, some call it a protid or whatever, but it's a fundamental organism that changes its morphology changes depending on the environment, right? So one environment it might be a bacteria, and another environment it might be a fungus, and another environment it might be an archaea. So there's all sorts of microorganisms, okay, and they kind of shape and they become what they need to become. Instead of thinking that there are funguses and bacteria and what they call viruses, what they're saying is they're all just different manifestations of an underlying fundamental thing that changes its morphology to accommodate and adapt to its environment, which is what everything does anyway, right? So now the monomorphism, which won out, just like the germ theory, what the monomorphists say is that there's only one shape. You have this one shape throughout your entire life cycle. Well, we know that's not true, right? When we just look at a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. So we know that they're in the adult stages. And then we all know if we look at us embryologically, we see that when we're first there, we kind of look like a fish. In fact, we even have gills, and then it's changing, and we change and we go through all this, and it finally turns into a human. But it goes through all these stages, right? And that's called uh, well, I know a lot of people haven't heard this, but ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny, and what that phrase means, phylogeny is the phylum, right? So phylum are large categories of when you categorize biological organisms, right? The really broad categories are plants, animals, like that, right? Anyway, so the phylum, so as the phylum, it might have fish, amphibians, reptiles, and then mammals. So if you look at us as we're developing in the embryo, we go through all those stages. So that's ontogeny. It recapitulates, repeats. Ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. In other words, the phylum going from fish and on. Anyway, that's what that means. So, um, so this point here is that share That's the name. Share is saying that they're all the same. Now the only one is that the parasites. The parasites are the only uh, organisms that we've been able to apply Cox postulates to. That is, you can take it here from someone who's not well and put it into someone who is well, and they're going to get the same condition. And you can take out like secretions or whatever, find it, and you'll find out it's the same organism. So we've never been able to do that with bacteria or anything else. Certainly not viruses, which whatever they call viruses. Never been able to do that. In 1918, when they had the what they call the Spanish flu, or the what else they called it? I guess that was it. They had 1,000 people. They took out their secretions from their nose. They took out their snot, put it into 1,000 people who were healthy, and not one of them got sick. And then they took out their sputum. Not one of them got sick. They even used blood. Not one of them got sick. So they were unable to show that this, whatever they think is there, is not an infectious agent. Okay, they could never prove it, and they never have. All right. So anyway, so there you go. The germ theory, which became biblical. It's our Bible. It's our final foundation, and it's questionable, right? Because Louis Pasteur, he admitted, he goes, oh yeah. I guess I contaminated all my experiments. And yeah, we never were able to prove it, And Beauchamp, the guy that was hanging out with him during those days, used to tell Pasteur, look, it's not the germ, it's the milieu. And it's right. So I'm going to check out this example. Suppose you have some incredibly delicious heirloom tomato seeds, right? Generation after generation, really delicious tomatoes. Now you go plant it in the Sonoran Desert outside of Arizona, Phoenix, or the Saharan Desert. You won't have tomatoes. You won't be eating tomatoes. You're going to have to get used to life without tomatoes. Why? Because the soil won't allow it. How important is the soil? Yeah. Okay. And oh, by the way, let's take that home to us. We are gardeners, and we have a garden. All right. We prepare the soil. So, and we're going to have a harvest, whether we like it or not, whether we are in charge of what gets planted in there or we just let things fall into us. They're going to grow. So when we have a harvest of any kind, whether it be insulin resistance or whether it be chest pain, any kind of harvest out of our soil, we have to understand has been attended to. It's been allowed to happen. Okay, this is really good because most of us are under the impression that someone else has got to fix us. I don't feel good, doc. Can you fix me? Okay, I'll fix you. Yeah, I'm going to give you this poison. But anyway, we have to understand that it doesn't work that way. It's whatever we grow or don't grow. So we got to pay attention to what seeds we're putting in there, and then we got to pay attention to the soil. And the soil is made up of what we eat, drink, what comes into our skin, what we breathe. All that stuff is contributes to our soil and our psychological state, right? If we're stressed all the time, the energy from that actually changes the environment as well. So there's energetic changes to that soil. It can change that soil, stress, all that, as well as physical. So anyway, so the great news is that even you go to a doctor, the best doctor, the top 100, this guy's or this lady's the number one. Well, they can't change that in you. Only you can. Only you can, which means what? It's your journey. It's not their journey. They're just guides. They might say, oh, go left here, go right there, but you got to walk it. Okay, that's really important. All right. So we got to stop thinking, which we all do, that I need treatment, I need to be fixed, because that's not even real. Okay. So I don't know how I got to that from that, but you understand what I'm talking about, right? So, and funguses, etc. Who proved that? There was a lot of guys that were in the early days that actually would have something become fungal or bacterial depending on the environment. This has easily been proven multiple times. All right. Okay. So now, where are we? Yeah. So not a lot of people today. Anyway, let's get in. Okay. Can't do anything with that. Just wondering how I can look more. I can't. All right. Okay. So that's what we're doing this week. Those are the two topics. Remember, where can I get medications for parasites, and the second, and the CFC group, which will be on Thursday, is what about the repurposed medications? And those are pretty important to talk about. Okay, let's get into the questions now. And I gotta move this over here. Every time. I got an idea. Let me put that here. Yeah, is that okay? Does that work? Sort of. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So the first question is from Trevor. And Trevor's the topic is colonoscopies and are they helpful? Well, all right. So um, my opinion is that they're not helpful at all. And I say that because what are you going to do with the results? You all know what a colonoscopy is, right? They give you some stuff to clean out your bowels. You drink it the night before, and it cleans out your bowels. Then you go in, and the guy puts a tube, a fiber optic scope, through your into your rectum, and goes up through into your colon, and it's got a camera on the end of it, and they're looking at it. And what are they looking for? They're looking for anomalies, things that shouldn't be there. And what they usually find is um, polyps. Polyps are little outgrowths, and they'll find a polyp and they'll biopsy it. And why will they biopsy it? Because polyps are kind of the way in which uh, CFCs in the colon start to form. They start out as polyps, right? And just to get back into nomenclature, um, uh, it's coming out of the glands of the colon, right? So therefore it's called an adenocarcinoma. And if it comes out of the glands of the pancreas, it's called an adenocarcinoma. And the glands of the breast, it's called adenocarcinoma. And the glands of the lung, adenocarcinoma. So they're all. So in other words, that's just telling you that it's what kind of cell, a gland cell, rather than a surface cell like a squamous cell. It's a gland cell. That's all it's telling you. But anyway, so in the colon, they start to form as polyps, and then they biopsy it, and they do a quick look at it, and they go, "That's fine." But if it's not fine, then if it's got the characteristics of a malignancy, then they have that information, right? And I'm talking about just polyps because if it's a tumor, obviously it's a tumor. But if it's polyps, so the information is that this polyp is now becoming malignant. So what does that mean? That means that this group of cells is fermenting. It's fermenting because it doesn't have access to its mitochondrial energy production. It's fermenting. Okay, and that's what that means, right? And so obviously, if you saw, uh, here's an example. Suppose you had ants crawling in your house. Okay, like you woke up in the morning and there's like army ants going in your house, right? Well, you can get like some sort of like sprays and poisons, just start firing them. But if you know insects, especially ants, they're going to just get their way in anyway. The probably the most effective and effective way to do it is to figure out where they're going. What are they eating? Because they're there to eat. Everything that is going somewhere is going on their way to eat, right? Even us, right? And that we're all going to eat, right? It's interesting in Thailand when a greeting is instead of saying hi, you say, "Have you eaten yet?" Or yeah, that's pretty much, "Have you eaten yet?" And there's three answers: I've eaten, I'm going to eat, and I'm eating, I'm going to eat. And what was the third one? Gin cao lao, yang meri gin. Yeah, I guess that's it. So those are the answers. That's how you answer people. But I think what we've learned, what does everybody think about this? Because your mother, your family, wives like to do this with their husbands and children, and that is make sure we're fed. And so it's when you talk about it, if you ask someone if they've eaten yet, it's uh, a demonstration of caring. That's how it's viewed. You're demonstrating that you care about the person. That's just because our cultures. So anyway, Trevor, are they helpful? But here's the thing: if you find out you've got some chronically fermenting cells down there, so that maybe that's helpful. I mean, that is helpful because now you're going to have to be really serious about whatever you're doing. But unfortunately, a lot of people are then going to submit themselves to the system, which is going to do surgery, chemotherapy, and perhaps radiation, and then what they call immunotherapy. So that's what they're going to do. And what we're finding is that a lot of people are actually um, uh, dying from that. That's what they're dying from. Okay. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, anyway, um, I should have a way of doing this. I can't. Okay. Um, so, Trevor, I don't think I think it's only helpful if you are not going to go get poisoned. If you're going to say, okay, well, now I need to get to a healing center where I can begin my journey back to health, right? All right. We want to get away from the military perspective. I'm going to get rid of, I'm going to kill this guy. I'm going to, no, no, because what he's not, it's actually, it's part of the harvest. Like knowingly poison yourself, right? Right. Hopefully. Some people do. Okay. So, uh, back here, back here. Yeah. Now, so that's what I'm saying, Trevor. I would not say that it's helpful other than that. Yeah. But it is very precise. I mean, it's probably one of the best ways to go in and see if you've got something. But the thing is, what are you going to do with the information? That's always the question, right? In fact, let's extrapolate here. If you're going to get a test, like your doctor recommends a test of any kind, the question should always be, what are the possibilities that this test is going to alert us to, and what will we do? And if finding out whatever the answer is that they're looking for is not going to change what you're doing, then there's no sense in doing it. It's really just academic. All right. So, um, yeah. So, um, always ask that question. Okay. We want to do this test. Okay. Well, then, okay, great. Okay. You can do this test. What for what? Okay. What are we going to do with it? Now, the next question is by Trevor again. Ivermectin and fenbendazole protocol. Okay. So, Trevor, that is everywhere. The question you're asking. Um, it's on my website, drthomaslodi.com. There's a webinar called Parasites, and I had to use that word, cancer. It hurts. Anyway, parasites and cancer. But on that website, on that webinar goes through what they are, who are these parasites, and then what are the different protocols we can use. And also, you don't want to just there's no like. First of all, if you're going to take a medication, here, this is going back to what I was just talking about. If you're going to take a medication, which ivermectin and fenbendazole are medications, so we're going to take them. Why? Okay, what is our purpose? Okay, so, okay, well, to kill parasites. Okay, so what is ivermectin and fenbendazole? These get rid of what kind of parasites? Worms. So all the worms, well, not some are better, like praziquantel is, so really, but ivermectin and fenbendazole or its cousin, uh, mebendazole or albendazole are pretty standard, and they should be part of the foundational uh, program. However, you need other ones, so you can't just do this. So there's no doing that, and there's no specific protocol of just those two. I would never recommend people say just those two. By the way, I got enough people here. Okay, you're all listening. Great. Okay. There's a website out there that's got a video of me talking about parasites, and they're saying Dr. Lodi's protocol, and they're selling stuff. And I never met them. I don't know who they are. So I hope that the implication is not that I'm involved with that. I don't even know the name of the website. I'll find out, but whatever. By the way, the only thing that will ever be me is this stuff, right? If you're getting me from somewhere another source, then it's not me because I would have told you. I would tell you, right? So anyway, I don't know how. I don't know how where they have such large um, gonads. Now that's non-binary gonads it covers everybody. I don't know where they got such large gonads to do such a thing, such arrogance, such absurd arrogance. Uh, so the ivermectin fenbendazole protocol. Well, it depends. You know, ivermectin is pretty much we want those two or mebendazole instead of fenbendazole as a part of the foundational program, but you got to have more. You can't just have those two. But most people are doing like 12 milligrams of ivermectin 3 times a day. Fenbendazole doing 22 milligrams 3 times a day. But then the question is that enough? Is that adequate? So when you start looking into the research of this, you'll find out that, like for example, niclosamide, mebendazole, these medications and ivermectin are being used alone in much higher doses for CFCs, lung CFCs, ovarian CFCs. So they've got multiple purposes. So if you're going to take this kind of stuff, which is a medication, you got to understand it more. So it's important to be with a clinician practitioner who understands this stuff so they can help guide you. Don't just, just doing it. You can just do it if you want. So of course, it's still free world, I hope, for a while in some places. But realize that all of these medications need to get cleared, detoxified by our liver. So the more you're taking of them, which you need to do, a lot of them at the same time, the more burden you're going to put on your liver. So you need to give it a break. So we do 3 weeks on, 1 week off. Or you can do 4 weeks on, 1 week off. There's different regimens, and also you want to be taking supplements, botanical substances that will actually support the liver in healing, such as alpha lipoic acid and anything from milk thistle, the plant milk thistle, which is some of the ingredients in there are silymarin, and then out of silymarin they get silybinum. But anyway, they're all doing pretty much the same thing. They're stimulating the liver to grow and to regenerate. So it's important to be taking these along with the B complex when you're taking the alpha lipoic acid. But those will help regenerate the liver. So if it's important to take those. And then remember, it's always good. You need a week off or whatever it is. You could be doing 6 weeks on and 10 days off or something. Okay. Now, next question is Sharon. The topic here is Parkinson's. So my husband has atypical Parkinson's symptoms that started with slurred speech and facial tremors. The tremors are on both sides of mandibular region. Okay. And his tongue has dyskinesia. Dyskinesia means kinesia is muscle, and so the movement of muscle. Dys means not working right. So like if you had a dyskinesia of your arm, right, and you went to pick up something, okay. So the tongue, so he's probably having slurred speech and stuff. He has no hand tremors, which you can have, and Parkinson's can have no hand tremors, although that's pretty pathognomonic. Most people, look for that, right? And that's a tremor at rest. It's not a tremor. So with Parkinson's, someone, if they're going to point to something, they won't have a tremor. But when it rests, they have a tremor. And then there's different kinds of some people, some conditions, neurological conditions, they have tremor with movement. like cerebellar problems. You know, if you, that's why during a physical exam, I don't know if you ever remember a doctor telling you to, touch your nose, touch his finger, touch your nose, touch your finger, do like that. And the reason you're doing that is to see if you're going, because if you're doing that, we're going to think about your cerebellum as having problems. So anyway, uh, he has been prescribed carbidopa and levodopa, but told he burns through it very quickly, and the neurologist is recommending deep brain stimulation. He's very strong. He works outside, but he gets no relief from facial tremors. He chews gum to help control mouth and tongue. He is able to eat and swallow, but things are difficult. He's lost a lot of weight. There's also a new treatment waiting for FDA approval that is in a patch form and has a pump that releases low doses of carbidopa levodopa continuously. So it's not a new treatment, it's a new modality of administration. Okay. So we are drinking green smoothies, we are weaning him off of sleeping depression pills, and he takes high doses of melatonin and Xanax to sleep at night. Because that's the only time he gets rest from his facial tremors. I feel like there's more we could do. There's more you can do on one side unless you can do on other sides. So, first of all, I want to excuse me. I gotta put the air conditioner on. It's too hot. Too hot. All right, there we go. It's gonna be noisy, but otherwise I can't think if it gets too hot. So, hey guy, I'm over here. Hello? What's going on with this camera? Oh, there we go. Okay. Wow. Okay, this goes right into a very important understanding about what they're calling diagnoses. Okay, remember, diagnoses is a name. So, for example, and so we assume if we get told we have Alzheimer's, if we get told we have diabetes, if we get told we have CFCs, it's as if it's true. It's true. Well, especially with neurological conditions, they are so blurred. And I'm going to give you an example. When I was still practicing in New York, there was a woman. She was a CPA, very bright woman, and she got the flu shot every year. And one year she got the flu shot, and she started talking like this, and she couldn't stop. She was talking like this. So she had a neurological condition, and it was just not like, I think within the same day or 24 hours of the shot. So she, came to see me in New York, um, and it had taken like 6 months or so to resolve. It finally resolved. So she came to me afterwards because the next year she got another flu shot. At this time it was permanent. She couldn't stop it. So she had gone to different neurologists all over New York City. Lenox Hill, New York Hospital. I mean, all the great hospitals, and Presbyterian, Columbia. And they all had different ideas. Some were saying that it could be uh, uh, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is Lou Gehrig's. It could be Parkinson's. So in other words, there's a blur there. Why is there a blur? Because there's no thing called Parkinson's. There's no thing called ALS. And there's no thing called Alzheimer's. It's a cluster of symptoms. So what is a symptom? A symptom is something that you subjectively experience, like a ready nose, pain, headache, itching. Okay, those are symptoms. Okay, then when we talk about signs, signs are something that your uh, caregiver, clinician, should observe. They observe your blood pressures. They observe that you walk kind of like this. They observe that you're slurred speech. They observe blood test is an observation. Okay, so there are signs and symptoms. Symptoms are subjective. Okay, so they're subjective, right? Because if I tell you I have pain, you're gonna, and this person has pain. Is it the same? Well, that's why we have a scale. On 1 to 10, what would you say? 10 being the worst, one being none. Where do you fall? And people will always, I'm 6, I'm an 8, I'm a 9, whatever it is. So now we try to quantify that symptom, but it's really, again, a subjective uh, uh, designation. Um, right? Because whatever this person's experiencing, and they say I'm a 6, and this person says they're a 6, we don't know if that's the same. It's not the same as doing a blood test where I can see, okay, your hemoglobin is 12. Your hemoglobin is 12. Okay, so I mean that's that. Okay, so now here's the interesting thing. When you look at the um, how do you diagnose Parkinson's, right? Okay, so let me read to you here something. So the International Parkinson and Movement Disorder Society, the MDS, developed the most current criteria for diagnosing Parkinson's disease as if it's yeah. Okay. All right. So what they say is that here's the criteria for diagnosing. In other words, putting the name on it. Emphasizes the importance of a clinical diagnosis based on patient's symptoms and medical history. What does that tell you? If they're making a diagnosis, meaning they're saying you have this thing, and it's based on what you tell me you're experiencing, or your medical history. Well, at 12 years old, I had this, and then I had. So your history is what you're telling me, and the symptoms. That's the most. I mean, there's nothing physical. Well, yeah, I mean there are physical things because the physical parts that identify Parkinson's are tremors, rigidity, right? They're rigid, and the bradykinesis. Brady means slow. Kinesis is movement, muscle. Bradykinesis, right? So they move slowly, and they also have a uh, uh, bradykinesis and what was that third one they have? Oh, that's it. Okay, sorry. So bradykinesis or dyskinesis, which means Brady means slow and dyskinesis means like that, right? So those are supposed to be the physical signs that help the doctor make the diagnosis, right? Okay. However, those same objective findings are part of many others. And also, one other thing with Parkinson's is there's a cognitive decline, thinking. But we see this with ALS, we see this with Alzheimer's. So all of these things. So it depends on. In other words, there are no things. That's all I'm trying to get to. There are no things called Parkinson's. There are no things called that. We're just doing it, right? And we're giving it. So when that lady that I told you about, the CPA, when she went to Lenox Hill, she had ALS. When she went here, they told her she had this. Okay, I'm trying to get that in mind. So my point is with you, Karen, Sharon. How do they know? Why are they saying he has that? All right. Why are they saying he has this? Why are they calling it that? What did they base it on? All right. Um, now the treatment for these things are exactly what you're talking about, right? Dopamine. So the whole idea of the fundamental biology of Parkinson's is that there is dopamine, right? Dopamine is one of our neurotransmitters, and it's kind of like what makes us feel good. And it anyway, so it what happens actually, there's a part of the brain called the substantia nigra, which guess what that means? You'll never get it. Ah, you got it. Okay, substantia, substance. Okay, so it's a substance, nigra, meaning black, dark. So it's a black. In other words, in the brain, there's this area that's dark. Okay. Anyway, what happens is that part of the brain, for some reason, gets um, damaged, and dopamine is not being produced, and the receptors for it are not quite uh, strong enough anymore, and so that's what happens. So what they do is they give you L-Dopa, which is a medication that turns into dopamine when you get it in your body. So they're increasing dopamine, right? What happens? The body finally gets used to it. Like the body, if you're giving the body anything, a lot of anything, it begins to, at first it works, and then it begins to not work. And the reason it's not working is because your body adapts to too much or whatever, because your body's on its own schedule. It's on a schedule of the schedule of divine necessity. It's doing what it has to do. All right. And if it feels like and if it senses there's too much of this, it becomes resistant to it. Eating too much glucose, sugar, pasta, potato, bread, but the body becomes insulin resistant. So even though I'm eating it, it's not going to get in there. The body is going to run the show, right? So that's what happens with Parkinson's when people say that it's no longer working. So what we need to find out is wait a minute, how did this happen? Michael J. Fox, how did this happen? He was a young man. How did this happen? Well, there's a lot of evidence showing that it was pesticide related. Pesticides can cause that, right? And but not in 100% of people. But why not in 100% of the people that we see with Parkinson's? Because there is no such thing as Parkinson's. It's a cluster of symptoms, and perhaps associated with some objective findings. It's very, very vague, right? That's what I'm trying to get to you. Okay. Now, anyway, so these pesticides being exposed to them, and we know what they are. Paraquat, lindane. If you know what lindane is that medicine they give to people who, in the old days, I don't know if they still do, who have scabies, right? And they put the lindane on, and it kills them. It's pretty powerful stuff, right? Lindane's nasty, right? And retinone, and there's some other horrible pesticides that are actually associated with developing all the symptoms and some of the signs of what they call Parkinson's, which if you just move over the clusters a little bit, augment them, and you're going to say, oh, now this is ALS. Oh, this is MS, multiple sclerosis. Oh, this is, so anyway. All right. So let's find out why this is happening and pull the plug. Let's stop it from happening, because that would be the real way to work with any condition. So they're not doing that. Anyway, so when we look at it deeply, Parkinson's, what we find out is that the cells in the substantia nigra are no longer able to produce glutathione very well. And glutathione, as everyone knows, is the main antioxidant neutralizer in our cells, all of our cells of our body. Our liver has a lot because it's detoxing for the whole body, right? Okay, so so the glutathione is not being produced that much. So what I used to do when I was in New York is when I had more of originally a more eclectic practice where I worked with a lot of different diagnoses, and then I narrowed in on oncology because that's always been my interest. And but I have people come in with Parkinson's, and I'd give them intravenous glutathione, and within 2 minutes, everything was okay. Well, what does glutathione do again? It detoxifies. Oh, so that means that whatever was causing that is toxic. Yes. Oh, okay. Because they're saying it's genetic predisposition, and I say, what? So what are the genes for Parkinson's, right? Are there genes for Parkinson's? And guess what the studies show us? Well, no, but because we're gonna stick, we're like loyal to the to the what is it? The homeschool, the home team. We're loyal to the home team, so we're gonna say that there's a maybe not quite understood exactly what, but there's a genetic predisposition, and I don't know what that means. A genetic predisposition. That means your genes are predisposed to doing something? Well, that's true. Your genes, every gene is predisposed to doing multiple things depending on the situation. So, what are we talking about? Anyway, they don't know what they're talking about, and they got us believing that they do, and so we're following them. Okay. So anyway, that's really important to know. Okay. So now, uh, where are we? Okay, I wanted to. Okay, so basically, what I say is Parkinson's or any of these neurological conditions are due to toxins. Now we are being inundated, right? I mean, we haven't found anybody in the last couple of years who doesn't have off the charts of glyphosate. We haven't found anybody that doesn't have off the charts of bisphenol A, which is from plastics. And then there are other chemicals from plastics, and there are other uh, toxins that are not from chemicals. They're not from plastics. We're just full of it. We've got all these things. Well, they accumulate, and when they get into the cell has to protect itself with glutathione. So we were looking at. So what you might consider then, Sharon, is finding a practitioner who knows and can help you with that, and just he's got to get IV glutathione. Problem with glutathione is you can't take it orally because remember it's going to get it's three amino acids put together. It's called a tripeptide. We cannot absorb more than one amino acid, so it's got to be broken down into the three constituent amino acids, and then they're absorbed separately. And when they get into the blood, they go wherever they're going to go. There's no enzyme sitting at the entrance of the blood vessel that's going to reassemble it back into glutathione. That's the problem. So you're not going to, I could be taking glutathione, but it's not going to ever get to my cells. So the one they take is N-acetylcysteine, NAC. So cysteine is one of the amino acids that makes up glutathione, right? So, and it's the rate limiting one because the other ones, the glutamine and the glycine, are the other two amino acids, are in abundance throughout the body. Easy to get. The cysteine, that one is hard to get. So if you give intravenous NAC, that means the cells are going to get that, and that now they'll be able to make more glutathione. And indeed they do. And we use that in the ICU when we have people who come in with liver failure because they've overdosed on Tylenol, which is acetaminophen, and that it stimulates their liver to make a lot more glutathione, and they recover from just giving them IV cysteine. So it works. Orally, it's harder to get those levels orally when you're taking NAC and cysteine. Now remember, all those, the N-acetyl, that's just part of the name, but the fundamental thing is the cysteine. And the cysteine has these, they call sulfhydryl groups, and you don't need to know all that, but that's where and that's critical to glutathione doing its job. All right, so we need to upregulate Sharon. We need to upregulate. We have to increase his ability, your husband's ability to produce glutathione in all of his cells, but especially in the substantia nigra. And number two, we need to stop whatever is poisoning it. So it doesn't make sense. Makes sense. Are they doing that? No. They talk about it? No. So whatever they're going to do, it's not. They're saying, look, we've been giving him dopamine and we've been giving him L-dopa and all that, and it's not working too much anymore. Okay, we're going to come up with something new. We're going to give you a patch that gives you the same thing. It's not really. They're not that clever. I wouldn't call them creative. Okay. So anyway, now, by the way, and this is pretty interesting. Parkinson's increased from 1990 to 2015, 118%. Now, if there's a genetic predisposition, how does that work? It doesn't make sense because genes are passed on, right? So whatever my grandfather had, I should be having. Why should there be more people having it? Anyway, so that's that, number one. Number two, if it's increasing, why is it increasing? What happened between 1990 and 2015? Well, just look at several things. Look at injection schedules for kids. Look at the amount of pollutants, chemicals in the atmosphere, in the soil, in the food. Just look at that. It kind of correlates with this. But we're not going to talk about that because, well, all right. And in fact, in the last 50 years, it's just in the US, it's increased by 50%. So, what I would like to say is that there's been an effort to disable us. And when I say effort, I mean effort for quite a while now. And it's sort of become cumulative, okay? Because we used to have this stuff we were getting exposed to, that stuff we're getting exposed to, but they kept adding on to it. So now there's a ton of stuff being exposed to. So when they look at the chemicals in a lactating woman, a woman who's pregnant and is feeding her baby, I forget how many chemicals, 180? There must be more now because I haven't looked at the data recently, but a lot in the amniotic fluid from where the baby's or the embryo is, the fetus is swimming and living, full of these chemicals. So we're born like toxic. So what are we going to get? We're going to get an accumulation of toxins more rapidly and more profound. That's what we're seeing. Okay. Now, all right. I just want you to understand this. I don't know why I keep losing connection. Huh. Okay. Uh, um, okay, there. All right. So now, uh, so here we have a thing that they're calling Parkinson's, which is kind of iffy, right? What is? Does he have it? Does he not? Okay, so somehow they concluded he has it. There's no it, but he has it, and we're going to give medication to do what? Increase the amount of dopamine in his brain, and then it's back to normal. Okay. Then we find out what? We find out why doesn't the brain have? Why isn't it getting rid of those toxins? And yeah, and then but can this one go down a little bit?
Yeah.
Just, oh yeah, there we go. You know, when I walked up here and I came back,
Oh, that's why, because it was following your face.
but then it got stuck there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that something? Okay.
I just make it not follow you. Just keep it in place.
Okay. And I got a new camera, so hopefully it's working better. And the what was I saying? Glutathione. Oh, okay. So anyway, going back to Parkinson's, we know now it's toxicity, it's toxins. We know that, right? We know that because if we increase glutathione, which cleans out toxins, you're back to normal. So there's the answer, right? So how do we increase glutathione? Well, one way is take the NAC or keep taking it. But if you already have this condition, you can't. Well, you can if you were to get IV NAC, that would probably do it. However, remember what happened in the substantia nigra is it's no longer able to produce it. So even if you give a lot of NAC, it's not going to do it. You've got to give the molecule glutathione, and that's IV. The only other way to get it, what I used to do in New York, is I had a compounding pharmacy make rectal suppositories of glutathione because you could absorb that. And because there's no digestive system to break it down into separate amino acids. And that worked, but not as well, obviously, as IV. So anyway, there are other ways of working with it. We got to do this. So your husband needs a thorough cleanse. Thorough. Juice cleansing, colonics, lymphatics, binders, just needs to be cleaned for quite a while. So you got to find someone who knows what they're doing. Okay, do that. Okay. So yeah, and you don't want to keep because they're not what they're going to do. They're going to finally get to the point where nothing they do is going to work because they're just like they're like at the end. They're not looking at how the path got there. So just believe me, they're not going to. They're going to get to a point where they can't get any success, and they're going to say, "I'm sorry. It's all we can do," um, which is what they like to say. All right, now here's one from Karen. Karen says, "I'm a nurse for over 40 years, studying holistic. For 20 years, I'm leaving the medical mafia for truth. Yay! I lost my mom 50 years ago to CFCs. My daughter, a single mother, has breast CFCs. She chooses holistic. Are there scholarships to Oasis? I am. I love that mother MTHFR positive. Is there a link to CFCs with MTHR? I'm a Mythor. Um, and could you explain if you are a fermenter, are you prone to CFCs? And how do you know? What is the treatment? Why do they tell us to eat fermented food? Keep us in for prayer as she has not spoke to me since her diagnosis a year ago. Huh? I'm not, speaking to your daughter? Okay. Okay. God will heal. I believe in miracles as a witness to God. Thank you. Okay. So, all right. So God already gave the miracle. It's an amazing thing. This body we're walking around is miraculous. I'm telling you, miraculous. Cut it and it heals. Pretty miraculous. Um, and the immune system, if you turn it on, I mean, if you stop blocking the immune system, it'll clean up anything within a week. All right. So we got the miracle, but we got to get out of the way of it happening. That's what we got to do. Right. Okay. So, Araina, Bogaraiga. It's almond. Almando. Okay. So, Karen, regards to a scholarship at Oasis, um, I'm not sure how that would work, and I usually don't deal with that part of things. So um, I think, in my understanding, because I'm not good at this stuff, is that is there a way to lower the price? And I know we do that. So, but I don't know. So we'd have to get you in touch with the administrative people there. Now, as far as the MTHFR, right? Um, okay, I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. That was discovered in the 80s, and then they didn't really get around to it until late 90s, and then by the 2000s they found, okay, well, yeah, there's definitely this. Oh, and it seems to be associated with all this stuff, heart conditions and metabolic syndromes. Okay, and so what it is that it's an enzyme. They're saying okay, so a gene can have several different ways of expressing itself, and so they're saying that these people have, it's a polymorphism. It's like, it's okay in genes, but it's not okay. Anyway, they use this word. Um, and so some people have different expressions of a gene. So the people that have MF, MITFR, MITFR, uh, it's a problem with folate um, uh, metabolism. Okay, so folate is one of the B vitamins. Okay. And very, very, very significant because it's involved in making a lot of neurotransmitters. It's involved in making nucleotides, genetic material, and so it's really, really an important one. Okay, so that's that. All right. So, uh, where is it? Okay, here we go. Now, uh, and so basically, all this gene does that produces this enzyme, right? Is it takes folate from one form during its metabolism in our body to be used for different things to another form. Okay. And if, okay, so people that are positive for this condition, they found do have an increased risk of breast CFCs, right? And however, if they take a lot of folate, it doesn't, not quite as profound, significant. Okay. Now, but and they said, well, it's also a little bit associated with esophageal CFCs, but not with ovarian. And anyway, so yeah, that's that. That okay. That's the association. So the answer is, according to them, I mean, if you believe their stories, yeah, that if you believe their stories, that's what there is an association. So that was the answer to your question. There is, if you believe it. I don't think. What I think has happened is I think our DNA, our genetics have been bombarded, and they've been becoming more and more bombarded over the last, especially 50 years. The last 50 years, the accelerated exposure to toxins is amazing that we're all alive. Amazing that we make it past the age of 30. Amazing what we're being exposed to. And then not only the chemical toxins, but the electromagnetic toxins. We are actually walking miracles. The fact that our body's been able to adapt to such extreme conditions, but we have. Um, so, and then because of that failure in folate metabolism, B vitamin, they wind up getting an increase in another intermediate called homocysteine. And when they get high homocysteine, that is associated with coronary artery problems, birth anomalies, autoimmune, and all that. All right. So I think that now I looked into it, and I wanted to know, how did this get into our system? I mean, we only discovered, how do we? I mean, what about the guys in 1920? Did they have MTHFR? Well, they weren't testing for it, so they don't know. So they can't possibly know, right? About 1960, because they didn't know about it. But yet, if you look at the research, they're going to tell us that it has been in our gene pool for about 2.5 billion years. I'm not, this is not an exaggeration. That's what they think. 2.5 billion years. Now, if you look closer and you say, okay, so show me where you got like a fossil of DNA or something from 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, and show me that. Well, we can't find that. Wait a minute. You said that this is a polymorphism. In other words, this is, and it happens. It's been in our, okay. So therefore, if we're looking at all these people 500 years ago, we should find one. Yeah. So there's, but they say the cumulative evidence. Their words are amazing, because I think they convinced themselves. So basically, they have not been able to find it anywhere else. So my question is this: what's going on? How did this happen? And how did we discover it in the 80s? What we've been doing? What are we doing from the? So let's look at what happened in the 21st century, the 20th century. Right? In the 20th century, we got more and more and more and more toxic, and less real food, less water, air got, everything changed. And this popped up. I don't think there's an that it existed before. And they can't prove that it did. They have no evidence. They can't find DNA from the skull of a mummy or whatever that had it. So, anyway, and and they also say, oh, it's very interesting. If you have this polymorphic, what are they calling it? What do they call it? Anyway, it's a genetic anomaly. Okay, you have that. There's an increase in bipolar conditions. There's an increase in schizophrenia. There's an increase in chronic pain, and there's an increase in autism. What? First of all, autism, by the way, didn't exist when I was growing up. You know what else didn't exist when I was growing up? Alzheimer's. You know what else didn't exist when I was growing up? ADD, ADHD. Didn't exist. Didn't exist. And when Alzheimer first got named, when we first started hearing about Alzheimer's, the original definition was pre-senile dementia. Okay, what does that mean? Well, they expect people when they get older, they're going to get dementia. You don't have to get dementia. Yeah, they expect that. However, pre-senile means before you're old. So that's what it used to mean. Now it's changed, and now it's everything. Everybody's, everything. It's what they call a wastebasket diagnosis. All right, so everybody's got Alzheimer's. Any cognitive decline in the elderly is now being called Alzheimer's because there is no Alzheimer's. There's none of this stuff. Okay, so anyway, great, thank you. By the way, when they're saying 2.5 billion years ago, we had this gene in our gene pool. What they mean is folate metabolism. Yeah, of course. So do frogs. They have to metabolize folate. Anyway, I'm just telling you that I don't go along with it. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. Don't say I have this. You don't have anything. I mean, you've got a divine earth suit, and all you gotta do is give it what it needs. That's all you gotta do. You're not different than anybody else. Don't let them pull you into that weird corner. Okay. Now it says, could you explain if you are a fermenter that you are prone to CFCs? Now, being a fermenter, we are capable of doing that, right? Now, anaerobic bacteria, these microorganisms, because they don't, anaerobic means without oxygen, and means without oxygen, they can't produce energy with what they call oxidative phosphorylation because they don't have oxide, which is oxygen. So they're anaerobic. So they ferment. That's what they do. So we have a lot of anaerobic organisms in us. Yeah. They are living in areas where we don't have much oxygen. So like at the roots of your teeth and stuff like that, there's a lot in that. Anyway, they ferment. So yeah, those are fermenters. And yeah, in our cells, we have a built-in mechanism that when we run out of the ability to process oxygen, that we start fermenting. So I'm not sure what you mean. If you're a fermenter, we're all able to ferment, right? So we have organisms in our gut and our mouth that are capable of fermentation. And yes, our cells are capable of fermentation. That's why we're even having this whole talk now. We have these groups because we've got people who are chronically fermenting. So I don't know what this mean, but when they tell you to eat, what do they tell you? Because I don't even know the things they're telling you. Okay. So if you're a fermenter, are you prone to CFCs? We're all fermenters, so I think that's kind of like the wrong question. And why do they tell us to eat fermented food? Well, the reason we eat fermented food is because we're going to get the bacteria, the microorganisms that produce the fermentation, right? And why do we want them? Because they're healthy for us. We need them. They're good for us. So if you look at any indigenous culture, they all have some sort of fermented food in their ancestral diet, right? So you have in the Eastern Europe and around there, they have what are called sauerkraut because, they found it in Germany, but it's not just Germany, right? And then in Korea they have kimchi, and and then a lot of places have yogurt, which is fermented. So fermented food has been an important part of human dietary, part of the human diet, and that's because, and that's why. So nowadays we take probiotics. Well, that's what those are. But if you're eating fermented food, those are for probiotics. So yeah, so you yeah, okay. So anyway, your daughter, single, and she has breast CFCs. We've got to figure out how to help her. I hope you can have her join the CFC group because I'm going to be putting. I'm going to be uh, giving. It's just being in the final stages of being finished. Uh, I've already written it. It's just they're just putting it in a form that that they want to, and then it's a plan. It's a basic plan for everybody on what time to wake up, when to eat, when to go to the bathroom, what else to do. So it's a plan, supplements, everything. Okay, so it's the fundamental plan. I was going to make it available to everyone. So join that group, the CFC group, and you're going to get that. Um, because if you're going to stay at home, you can do all these things to get started. Because remember, the only thing you're going to get at a healing center in terms of interventions is going to be intravenous, vitamin C's, artesunate, curcumin, uh, quercetin, ozone, things like that. Right, that's what you're going to get at most clinics. At our place, you also get colonics, you get lymphatic therapies, you get teach you how to make food. I mean, it's way more than that. But really, the truth is, if you could learn to do this, so what the idea is people come to Oasis in Arizona. You come to Oasis, and you go through 6 weeks or 8 weeks. It's not going to be resolved at that point. It's just we're on the way. We're on our way now, and now you know the plan for living. Okay, because the plan for living is going to prevent from making new ones, so that this process doesn't go on. That you got to learn. And so if someone asks me, "What's your success rate?" My success is that I have successfully given you enough information to change your basic database about what you what you know. So I want to help you eliminate those things that you thought you knew that were not true, and learn and give you some real knowledge that is, and it's all referenced in research, etc. So change your database, give you the skills. Because now you know what food is. You say, okay, now how do I make that kind of food? Well, where do I find it? So we teach you all that. We even take you shopping. We teach you how to shop. We teach you how to read labels. We teach you how do you do this? How can I do this? And what equipment do I need? You get it all. And then you get training on making the various different aspects of this. And one of maybe the most important thing you learn is how do you make it delicious so that you love it? So now it's part of your cravings. How do you change your craving for steak or pizza to a kale salad or whatever, or raw vegan? How do you do that? Is that possible? Yeah. The best things I've eaten have been that. But you got to have people that know what they're doing. Anyway, so we can make it. So that's the thing. So you're going to learn, change your knowledge base. Okay, now I know I got to do this instead of that. Okay, then give you the skills to do it. This is how I do it, and the knowledge. And then you got to have one third thing. There's a third thing you have to have, and that is you have to have the experience during that time of feeling better in one way or another, more energy or whatever. The reason you have to have that experience is because if you don't have that experience, then the change in database and the training are just theory. And theory doesn't take you too far. So what we need to do is give you the experience to say, well, yeah, okay, I want this. I feel better. I'm clearer. I have more energy. Yeah. Then. Okay. So those are three things you have to get. Once you have all of that, you can go, and we can find somebody to give you vitamin C, the other little things, and you already know you got to do colonics, but you've learned how to do it. So all the other stuff you can learn. So really, I think most important part of coming to a center like ours. Oh, by the way, there is none like us anywhere. I wish there were, because listen, There should be no competition between people that are working in this field. There's unfortunately plenty of people with CFC. So I mean, this competition is absurd. We should be helping each other do better, sharing our information. That's why I share it all. I mean, and I'm told by you shouldn't give so much information. Why not? What am I going to do? Charge for it. Charging for knowledge makes me feel kind of weird. It's not do I own knowledge? No. I learned it and I pass it on. And if I get knowledge and I don't do anything with it, so anyway, I don't agree with those sorts of things. But anyway, I think we should all be sharing knowledge, helping each other to help each other, helping each other to help each other. Yeah, that's what we should be doing. I mean, okay. So now, so Karen, please have your daughter join this. Okay. Now here's the next question by Tanya, and she's saying, I take Dr. Mercola's Velasta. Did he get it to Velasta too? How much? How did he? Are you sure it's Velasta? Does he have Velasta, you guys? Because Velasta is astaxanthin, which is a carotenoid, part of what we call vitamin A, produced by algae, other things too, but algae. But it's been modified to have a glucose on it with a glucosidic bond, and that's Velasta. Velasta is not something in nature. So this company makes it. So I don't know how they would have Velasta. Do they? Anyway, how much should I take daily? Okay, Mercola has Velasta 12 milligram capsules. I hear you talk about Velasta, but I can't find a podcast where you say how much to take. I think you said at one time in the inner circle group that you were going to put together the top most important supplements for cancer. Yeah, I did. That's what I'm talking about, Tanya. Um, uh, Dosages and where to get it. Yeah, that's still happening. Yeah, I did it. It's just they're putting it into final form. Yeah, I get so overwhelmed trying to take all the supplements. I work full time, which involves travel at times and raise a 16-year-old granddaughter, so it's hard to do all the juicing supplements raw food, but I'm doing it. Yay. Well, Tanya, I hear you and I understand. It is overwhelming. Dr. Lodi, could you please talk about MS? Oh, okay, multiple sclerosis. I thought it said me. So could you please talk about me? So anyway, okay. So in a second, you're overwhelmed. The reason we're overwhelmed is because on the internet you're going to find as many people saying you should do this as people saying you shouldn't do it. And if you haven't been trained, you're going to say, "What should I do?" Right? And and when people say they do nutritional counseling, etc., and they mean it's vitamins, minerals, supplements. That's not nutrition. I mean, I've never seen a vitamin tree. Have you seen vitamin tree? 88 almost 90 maybe 90 countries by now. I've never found a vitamin tree. I'm looking though. I'll let you know. And I don't consider so. The word supplement means in addition to that which is inadequate. So the more adequate your diet is, it doesn't need to be supplemented. So that's the main thing. So now, assuming you have an adequate diet, the supplements requirements are very low. Iodine, and then you get your thyroid going. Iodine, 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 iodine. Vitamin A, C, and D. Okay, you need to max those out because we're not eating it. We're not getting enough sun. We're not doing it naturally. So you got to max those out to their maximum because they all have a powerful influence on the immune system. Vitamin C it has a powerful influence on everything. So those you want to max out, and you want to max out melatonin because we make less and less and less and less, less, less. And our pineal glands are being fluoridated. So okay, a calcium fluoride. So therefore, melatonin and in terms of supplements. Then, of course, you want to take some hydrochloric acid before you eat because we're probably not making enough stomach acid. So you want to, so 10, 15 minutes before you eat with it. And then you will need some digestive enzymes, right? You want to make sure that they have the enzymes that you need if you're vegan, which is not what most enzymes are. They have a lot of proteases, but if you're not eating big chunks of what do you call it? Like if you're not eating big chunks of dead muscle or big chunks of dead organs, if you're not eating that kind of concentrated uh, animal protein, then you don't need all these proteases. But you do need cellulase, and you do need, lipase, amylase. So you got to make sure you got the right kind of supplement, digestive enzyme. You take a bunch of them after you eat. Okay. Make sure it's unable to access camera. Has the camera gone off? I see it. Wait a minute. Why did it say that? I don't know. Okay, so now, I wonder how Mercola's getting Velasta, because that's proprietary. I mean, this guy made it. The guy that owns the company, Velasta. Um, Brilliant guy. I mean, I had one of the best 2 hours conversations in my life with him. This guy, brilliant, brilliant. But he figured out how to get it where it needs to get. Remember, Velasta is astaxanthin, which we need. It's going to give you a lot of electrons. Remember, life comes down to: are you still kept losing connection? Whew. You know, isn't paranoia when you're imagining that people are after you? Imagining, right? So with TikTok happening, all these things always happening. Am I imagining still? Yeah. Anyway, uh, so he takes astaxanthin, he connects it to glucose. Why? Because our cells will pick up the glucose, and when they do that, they're going to pull in the astaxanthin. It's going to give us all these wonderful electrons, and which are going to help us keep things uh, detoxed, right? Okay, and other things, but it's really, really important. Now, CFCs have extra insulin receptors because they need 19 times more glucose. So they're going to pull up a lot of it. And when that goes in there, they wind up getting too much, and their pH, in other words, they get so alkaline, they're dead. I mean, it's ingenious, but he designed it. So how could Mercola have it? I got to look that up. But anyway, so you're taking 12 milligrams. Here's the way it works. In terms of milligrams, okay, you take 1/2 of your body weight. Usually it's kilograms, but you can say pounds. 1/2 of your weight in pounds. Multiply that by 1.5. All right. So if you weigh 100 pounds, you get 50 times 1.5 is what? 75. So you take 75 milligrams a day, and you can take it in divided doses with food or at a single dose with food. All right. And your feces will turn red, so don't be shocked. Um, I mean, don't think you're bleeding or something like that. Right. Okay. Now, all right. So this is from Ingrid. I'm healing from hormone-sensitive breast CFCs. I had the tumor removed and one chemotherapy. I've turned down radiation and tamoxifen. How do I continue, and what supplements should I don't do? And regarding the fact that it's hormone-driven, it's been a little bit confusing. I know. I live in Sweden, and since I've turned down treatment, I have no support from doctors. But they care. They care. We've got to really come up with some definitions here. What does caring mean? Um, I'm also alone with three small children, and my economy is really tight. Yo, I know, you know, and it's going to be made tighter. They're going to make sure that it's tighter. So, Ingrid, first of all, Ingrid, did you get wherever you got to go, you go and you get a 3D cone beam CT of your jaws and have it read by somebody who knows what they're doing. The only one I know in Europe is a Dr. Jose from Spain, and he's basically an oral surgeon, and he does amazing work. Gets it on every level, so he's the guy. Um, and whatever is found on that 3D cone beam CT, he'll be able to help you with. So that's the guy, and he also knows because he lives in Europe. He also knows of medical practitioners, so he would know who to go to for some of these intravenous IVs and stuff like that. But however, you got to get rid of the toxins. And I hope you've done a minimum of. If you got kids and you're by yourself, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, at least 6 weeks juice cleanse. Do enemas every morning, and then you just got to just take those basics. Like I said, iodine, like 25 milligrams a day. You got to get iodoral or you got to get Lugol. Now, you also got to check your basal body temperatures to assess whether or not your thyroid is functional. And how do you know if it's functional? Because your temperature, when you do it 5 mornings in a row before you get out of bed, the average will be more than, or at least 36.8. If it's at least 36.8 centigrade Celsius, then your thyroid's working good. If it's below that, that means you need thyroid. Taking extra iodine like you're doing could and will slow down the thyroid output. So especially while you're replenishing, taking 25 milligrams a day, it's going to knock that down a little bit. So you've got to be taking thyroid hormone to keep yourself having adequate thyroid function while you're doing that. Okay. After you get all your iodine deficits replaced, it takes about a year and a half. Then you go down to a maintenance dose of it, which is 12.5 milligrams. And melatonin, A, D, C, iodine, melatonin. And then minerals, you got to get a mineral complex that has selenium, zinc, manganese, magnesium, molybdenum, boron. Yeah, and you can get a multi-mineral complex. You got to get that. Okay, so you got to get all those things and then eat what God made through nature, but nature is not God because anyway. So just eat that. All right. So if you want to put it in your mouth, say, did it grow this way? If it grew that way, okay, I'll just clean it off and then eat it. If it didn't grow that way, and you want to avoid it. Why? Because right now it's showtime. Right now, yeah, you don't ease into it when you have CFCs. I mean, you could if you have to, and there are people that just simply can't do it. I've had people here uh, stop eating, and that doesn't work, So you can't stop eating. So okay, we eat whatever you want. Then I mean, I get to, there's all that, but I'm just saying, if you want to do your best, eat the food that God put here for us. Okay, and do all that. Go to sleep early. Go to bed by 8. Latest 9. Take 180 milligrams of melatonin, not right away. You start up, go slowly. It's hard to get if you're in Europe. It's hard to get and you're in Europe because of the Codex Alimentarius. So you're going to have to go. So I think you might have to make a trip somewhere to get all this stuff. And you need the Velasta. You need all this stuff because Velasta is really important. By the way, it's part of the fundamental supplements is that too. How much vitamin A? You take about 40, 50,000 units a day, and then you check your levels because you want to be at the upper limits of the normal range. The upper limits, like the last 1-2% of there. That's where you want to be. And your vitamin D, you want to be up around 100. You can be over, it's fine. 120, 130. You don't want to be below 70. You don't want to be 70. You want so you take so you can start out with 40,000, 50,000, 50,000 of the vitamin A, 40 or 30,000 of the vitamin D, and then check. And as soon as you get to those levels, then figure out how much you need to stay there. C, you're going to be taking all day long. Okay? You're going to be taking it all day long. You're going to sip 7 to 7, and you're going to get the sodium ascorbate, liposomal sodium ascorbate, and you'll take 2 grams 4 times a day. You do all this so you have plenty of vitamin C, because it is, talk about miraculous, it's miraculous. Miraculous, and it's such a simple. It's if you see the molecular structure, you're going to say it's so simple. It's basically glucose modified. It's just got a couple little things. Are we back on, guys? Facebook? Yes. Are we back on? It just went off again. Back on? Are we back on? Anybody? Please let me know. Somebody in Facebook, YouTube, say, yes, we're on. No, we're not. Oh, if you're not, if I don't get any response, obviously you're not going to say, no, we're not on. Uh, does anybody know Instagram? You have any friends on Facebook? Um, can someone let me know? Come on. No secrets. We're friends, remember. What happened to the camera? I can hear you, but I can't see you. Yeah, what the heck? What is with the, you can't see me. Um, can I switch that? Can I switch cameras? Come on. On Facebook, so you can't see me. What the heck happened? Did something happen? What happened to the camera? I am. Oh my God. Hey, tell me, are we having fun yet? Are we having fun yet? This incredible. You know, I'm not. Is it legal to have this much fun? Um, okay. There's got to be a way. Is your new camera unplugged? No, because it's just been sitting there and it didn't move. Nobody moved it. It's plugged. The thing is, I got to go and figure out the. We can hear. You can hear you. So how do I? How do I? Can I change? Anybody know? Can I change cameras? Because I go back to my old funky cameras. Okay. Uh, uh, can I do that? Let me make this bigger. Here I can change. No. Here. Can I change it? Oh my gosh. Why is this not working?